Dear friends, welcome to another episode of Geopolitical and Military News. In this video, we will talk about the true extent of the Chinese military budget and how China manages to hide so many expenses. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe now and hit the notification bell to never miss an update. To put it very briefly, the amount a country invests in its defense is directly proportional to the operational capacity of its armed forces. The more resources a nation's military has at its disposal and, above all, the better these resources are invested, the greater that nation's capacity to defend itself and project power. In terms of financial investment in defense, the United States has been leading the world since the time of World War II. When that conflict ended, the United States plunged into a phase of strong interventionism worldwide, resulting in direct involvement in various conflicts, such as the Korean War in the 1950s, the Vietnam War between the 1960s and 1970s, and several wars in the Middle East and Central Asia from the 1990s onwards, such as the two wars in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan between 2001 and 2020. All these conflicts necessitated a strong investment in defense, with the United States consistently maintaining the top position in military spending over the past 80 years. But, as I said at the beginning, as important as the amount is how this sum is invested. Just as an example, in the United States, only about 23% of the total amount goes towards personnel costs, with nearly one-third of that gigantic budget going towards research and development of new military technologies, which, as we know, makes the difference in modern conflicts and is what allows the United States to have the largest and most advanced armed forces in the world today. According to the most recent official data, the U.S. military budget for 2024 will be around $835 billion, a figure greater than the sum of the next 9 countries in the top 10, including China and Russia. Speaking of China, according to official Beijing data, the amount invested by the Chinese in this sector is about $230 billion, that is, roughly 3.5 times less than the U.S. military budget. However, for many analysts, these Chinese values do not correspond to reality, with many estimating that the amount China invests in defense is very close to the amount the United States invests. For these sources, the size of the Chinese armed forces, with more than 2 million active-duty military personnel, could only be maintained with a much larger military budget than officially presented, the same being true for the technological advancements presented by the Chinese in recent years. In all areas, in the skies, the highlight is the Chengdu J-20, China's first fifth-generation fighter. At sea, there are many highlights, starting with the Type 055 destroyers, which, in addition to being gigantic, are equipped with combat systems that, although inferior to U.S. systems, are much more complete and modern than the systems installed on the most modern Russian ships. Another Chinese naval highlight is their third aircraft carrier, the Fujian, the first Chinese aircraft carrier with catapults, with the Chinese choosing precisely electromagnetic catapults, extremely advanced technologically. But why do so many claim that the real Chinese military budget is higher than the official one? And if this is true, how does China manage to hide so many expenses? According to a study published in April 2024, Chinese defense investment actually amounts to around $700 billion, not the $230 billion officially announced, with this discrepancy being motivated by 2 main factors. The first is Chinese purchasing power parity. To put it simply, it is cheaper for the Chinese government to buy defense items in China than for the U.S. government to do the same in the United States, with some specialists estimating that, specifically in the defense sector, an advanced piece of equipment can cost up to 5 times less in China than an equivalent in the United States, mainly due to labor costs, energy, and state control over prices. As we know, in the United States, the free market regime prevails, with the dynamics between supply and demand determining prices. But in China, being a communist dictatorship, the state has complete control over prices, being able to stipulate how much it is willing to pay for a particular item, regardless of the real market value of that item. Therefore, just the cost of producing in China, which is much lower than the cost of producing in the United States, greatly contributes to masking the real value of the Chinese military budget. For China, hiding all this massive investment in defense is also much easier than for the United States, as it is a communist dictatorship where the government controls all media with an iron fist, preventing information leaks that, in other countries with greater press freedom, such as the United States, would be much more difficult. Therefore, summarizing, the reasons that lead the real Chinese military budget to be much higher than the advertised value are several, starting with the already mentioned limited transparency, with the Chinese Communist Party disclosing only what it wants the world to know. Another reason is related to what China considers a military and non-military expense, with emphasis on the Coast Guard, a branch that is military in most countries, but in China is classified as a kind of civic military militia. Another reason is the already mentioned purchasing power parity and economic adjustments resulting from prices set by the Communist Party. All this leads many to estimate that China's real investment in the defense sector is much closer to the United States than previously thought. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time.